Reproductive health has been a focus of concern since the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade last summer. A new report shows the ripple effects that the court's decision has had on all aspects of reproductive health care. With more on that report, we welcome Bree Thomas. She's CEO of the nonprofit group Affirm. Welcome to Arizona Horizon. Good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
This report basically talks about reproductive autonomy. What does that mean?
So the ability for an individual to select the type of reproductive health care they would want, meaning do you want sterilization, do you want birth control pills, patches, rings, anything in between. So I would be able to access the method I would want to use.
Okay, so and the report looked at the impact of overturning Roe on that aspect of healthcare.
The report, fortunately or unfortunately, started in 2019. So we first were looking at the impacts of negative policies from the federal administration, and then we ran into COVID, and then we ran into Dobbs. So they were able to look at access to contraception kind of in those 3 points.
Okay, so and that's in general. Let's keep it general here. Okay. What do they find?
Well, they found that in Arizona specifically, 5% of the women were not able, an increase of 5% were not able to access the method that they wanted, that the quality of care was less than it used to be. And, in particular after Dobbs, people struggled to get the type of method that they wanted.
Interesting. And so one type of reproductive health care restriction can impact all sorts of health care. Is that what the report's showing?
Correct. It's, this Dobbs is around abortion policy, but we're talking contraception. And so we're talking about, restricting one little piece of this program creates all of these ripple effects.
That's the ripple effects. And targeting abortion can negatively impact healthcare systems overall.
Correct. So, if people don't know where they can go to get the care that they want, they're confused, might not understand that they can still access contraception, they also they struggle that way as well.
Now, Arizona was included along with some other states in this report, true?
Yes.
Yeah, I got Iowa and Wisconsin and New Jersey and that sort of thing. Did Arizona stand out in different ways, or was this all combined?
It was all combined, but there was one statistic I think that Arizona scored worse than the other 3 states. So New Jersey was kind of the control group. Wisconsin and Iowa and Arizona were the other groups where policy changes were made. And that's where the 5% of women that weren't able to access their preferred method of contraception.
And basically those are barriers.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
As sexual activity declined, according to the report?
According to the report, and there was an increase in condom use. So it's interesting how you are able to delineate all of those pieces in this one report, for sure.
I see also high quality contraceptive care, as you mentioned, decrease for everyone, or mostly for Arizona, but for everyone involved?
Yes, for those three states and Arizona specifically. Yes.
Yeah. So policy decisions, where does policy itself fit into this report?
So what we initially were looking at is we thought the Trump administration was going to did a gag rule on the Title X program, which is what I run, and we thought, it would not be able to refer for abortion care. And so that was the initial part of the study. And then, like I said, in COVID, people weren't going for contraceptive care because people weren't going to the doctors. And then post-Dobbs, people got confused.
Go back to Title X and that domestic gag order. What exactly was that?
So in 2019, Donald Trump issued a rule that would not allow our system to refer to abortion care. So if you came in and you had a pregnancy options counseling visit, meaning I'm pregnant, what are my options? You can talk about adoption, you can talk about keeping, and you can talk about abortion. And under President Trump, we weren't allowed to direct people to abortion care.
Interesting. And you mentioned COVID getting in the way. How much did it get in the way?
So it got in the way a lot. And I think we're going to start seeing the ramifications when we look at STI testing and treatment when the rates come out for 2022. Maricopa County specifically has a syphilis problem right now. So we're starting to see the ramifications of not going to being tested.
Do we know why Arizona is different? Obviously from New Jersey and these other places. New Jersey is the control. Have to be a little bit different. But I mean, do we know why Arizona is not faring all that well in all these things?
I would say one reason is we don't have comprehensive sex education. So there's some abstinence and it's left to parents. So there's not a health course in a lot of schools where they talk about reproduction, reproductive health, and how to take care of yourself in that way. And so I think that leads to misinformation. It leads to people looking on the internet for answers, and sometimes those are true and sometimes those are not.
As far as reversing what you see as the damage here, as far as this report is concerned,
Yeah.
Sex education is one idea.
Yeah.
Any other ideas?
I think, talking clearly and concisely to the folks about how they can access contraception, what types of contraception are available. We have a website called www.sexfyi.org where you can look at types of contraception and where you can get these services. Our services tend to be for low or no cost, so people could access them that way, or they can use their health insurance if they have it, and talk to their provider about what type of method they would like.
And last question here, with the Arizona Supreme Court and its particular ruling, how does that factor into all this?
So I think it has a chilling effect on all sexual and reproductive health care. So obviously, abortion care, according to the Attorney General, will end on June 8th, I believe she said.
Yes.
So that will be ending then, and then we will have to figure out how we can make sure that people understand how they can access contraception, because that will be our next line of defense in terms of care for folks. And so I think it will continue to be confusing.
Bree Thomas from Affirm, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.